We all have brands that we absolutely love and brands that are just not quite there. The difference isn't always the product, it's how they make us feel, how they connect with us. My guest today, Cairo Marsh, has spent years unpacking that very difference. From the New York advertising scene to Tokyo, where the customer is God. What he's discovered goes beyond campaigns and KPIs. It's about rethinking how we engage with the audience. And once you hear it, you may never look at your favorite or least favorite brands the same way again. Welcome to the show, Mind Blend. I'm your host, Karen Chong, and I'll be diving into the minds of incredible people, each an expert in their very own way. Together, we'll uncover insights and share ideas so you can be inspired and empowered to navigate your own unique journey in life. Ready to get curious and discover what's possible? Let's blend. Joining me today is Cairo Marsh. Cairo is someone whose marketing journey has taken him from the hustle of New York City to the precision of Japanese customer experience. Having managed many big-name agencies in New York, he has made his way over to the other side of the world and is now the founder and executive partner of Relative in Tokyo, a marketing agency that focuses on one specific aspect, customer experience. Now, how did that happen? We'll find out. Hi, Cairo.
Hey, Karen, thank you for having me on. I'm really looking forward to this conversation.
Me too. I've been looking forward to it for weeks. Now, tell us about your journey from New York to Tokyo. Like, what happened? What were you doing?
Oh, nothing super exciting. I wish there was some wildly exciting story that drives it. I think I was really just at the point in my life because I'm a born and raised New Yorker. I grew up in New York my whole life. I'm originally from the Bronx, lived there till I was about 25, 26, moved to Brooklyn, lived there for 10 years. And, I was really just sort of at the point in my life where I was looking for a change, looking for a difference. Not because there's anything wrong with New York. I love New York, still the best city in the world, if you ask me.
Mm-hmm.
But you start to look for different influences. You look for growth. And I think sometimes growth we think of in a career context. And for me, there was opportunities to grow in a personal context that I thought Japan and Tokyo had to offer. I originally came out to Japan for a friend's wedding a few years before I actually relocated and moved out there. And that experience of just being out there and the cultural differences and the challenge of trying to navigate an environment that's intuitively not your own, I found really fascinating. And so when I was in that point in time in my career in New York where I felt like I really needed to change and I needed to be challenged in a different way, Tokyo just made a lot of sense to me.
Yeah. So you moved out to Tokyo. Were you pursuing the same kind of career or did you start from scratch?
So I've worked in advertising my whole career. So before moving to Tokyo, I worked in agencies in New York for about 15 years or so.
Mm-hmm.
And then when I went out to Tokyo, and I did go out there without a job, I went out there with the intention of the experience of living outside of my bubble would be the most important thing.
Mm-hmm.
And so I was willing to do other things. I had hope to still be able to work in advertising.
Yeah.
But I was like, well, if I need to teach English, if I need to do something else, just
Yeah.
anything that allows me to sort of extend that time out there, I'd be willing to do. And it took me about 6 months to find a job. And, I was on a tourist visa. So
Okay.
I stayed, tourist visa, you get 3 months. So
Yeah.
I did my 3 month tourist visa and I left the country and then I came back and did another 3 months. And at the end of that second 3 months, I was able to find a job in an agency, which is as much as I could hope for.
That's great. Yeah, that's amazing because teaching English, I was there myself.
Yeah.
That's what I did as a
Yeah.
part-time, and it's the easiest, highest paying job for a English speaker, if
For
you're
sure.
just starting out. So you got an agency job,
Yep.
and what made you decide to find your own company?
Ooh, boy.
Review as little or as much as you can.
No, but there's lots of drivers, right? One is I had always wanted my own company from the time I was a little kid. It was something that, growing up in the Bronx, and me and my older sister used to talk about how, okay, we're going to do this and you'll run this part of the company and I'll do that part of the company. It was always a dream and ambition. Like that was always in my roadmap or path. I think the opportunities that I ended up being presented when I was in Japan. So I was at this agency and I was there for about 6 years. I was
Hmm.
actually running their office in Tokyo for the last 3 years.
Okay.
And it sort of came to a point where I think the vision for where the agency wanted to go, and the vision for where I wanted to go just didn't line up. So it was we that road had run its course, if you will, you know.
Hmm.
And fortunately, I had the opportunity via a potential client, not a client of that old agency, but through a potential client to um, to sort of springboard my own sort of organization.
Hmm.
And so I did. And, you know, it was all above the board. Like I talked to my old agency about here's what I'm going to do. And we tried to make sure that no one would get damaged in that sort of process. But it was really a bit of serendipity where my vision and their vision didn't line up anymore. And we were able to work out something amicable. And
Hmm.
fortunately, there was also a client that I could use as a springboard to start the company.
Yeah. Yeah. Networking, springboarding, so important. And serendipity too.
Yeah, no. So like the whole phrase that I think is the world's truest phrase is luck is opportunity meets preparation. You have to
Ah.
you have to be prepared in
Mhm.
order to do the work or meet the opportunity, but opportunity does have to present itself.
Yeah. And you have to know when to seize it, like keep your
Yeah.
eyes open and seize it. So I know that relative is, like I said in the intro, it focuses specifically on relationship.
Hmm.
Has it always been that way?
Yeah, that was the whole intention because I just think it's a lesson I believe that's been repeated in multiple phases in my life,
Hmm.
going back to when I, you know, first used to work for my grandfather in the Bronx to literally the agency I was working at in Tokyo just before that. Nothing good happens if you don't have positive relationships.
Hmm.
Nothing good happens. Like if you're at a company where people are working against each other, put all the hours you want into it, your company's going to have limited success.
Hmm.
If you and your clients aren't on the same page about what success looks like and what value looks like, put all the effort you want into it, you're going to have limited real return come out of that. So I think in starting relative, the whole idea is that I am just radically or religiously or whatever R word you want to use, committed to the concept that everything has to be driven through a relationship lens. We're working in collaboration with our clients, where our clients are working in collaboration or in a sense of co-creation with their
Hmm.
consumers. And that becomes the foundation for everything that we do. And I think if you do that, what you end up doing is the work is more rewarding, the results are more positive, and I think it's just a better, healthier environment. And I think how you work is, to me, more important as the work that you actually do, being able to work in a positive environment.
Hmm. Now, I know that Japanese people value relationships a lot
Mm,
as well
absolutely.
in personal life and work life too. Was the concept, because it's so much of a given,
Yep.
was it difficult to kind of make that your pitch?
I don't know. How does it sound now when I say it?
Well,
I'm
to
not.
me, it makes a whole lot of sense because in worlds outside of Japan, we
Yeah,
can definitely use some, minimizing friction.
sure.
London definitely can
Yep.
use some of that. So yeah.
I think, like to me, at the end of the day, I think the pitch, I think the idea of relationships is a given, but I don't think that everyone really does it. Obviously, in Japan, like you said, relationships really matter in the context of your network, and networks are built over time. And there's a sense of trust that comes out of that and the way that work happens. But I don't necessarily think in Japan that it's always a matter of, well, what's my relationship with my consumer or what's my relationship with my suppliers? There is a sense sometimes of hierarchy and dominance that
Hmm.
plays into things. I think the way that we try to work is to try to really embed that sense of, again, like how do you create mutual value between all parties at all points of interactions, at all times to everything that we do. And I think that is I think that is important, and I think that's a value add to what happens in the Japan market and most markets. I do think, though, fundamentally, I don't overly expect people to buy into my pitch. I don't overly expect people to buy into my philosophy. It's I expect people to understand who I am. If you work with someone, this is who I am. This is who we are as a company. This is what we do. The most important thing for my clients to understand is that we're going to go find you customers. We're going to go
Mm-hmm.
deliver value for you. And we're going to fight for you because we believe in you. This is why we do. You don't
Mm-hmm.
necessarily need to believe what I believe, and that's okay.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I guess the first step would be, getting them the sales,
Yeah,
like getting them
absolutely.
the acquisition, getting them the sales. And
Absolutely.
for a lot of people who may not be familiar with customer experience,
Yep.
they may think of it like customer service.
Yep.
You call support. How would you distinguish the two?
I think it's really interesting because I think of as a company, at the heart of what we do is sort of experience design, helping to plan out the right experiences across the ecosystem for our clients' customers. I think there is absolutely a bias in the industry to sometimes skew that towards customer service and
Mm,
think of it through that lens. But I think all touch points matter.
mm,
So when the ultimate thing that I think all companies, all businesses want to do is you want to create a positive impression in your customer's mind at every point of interaction. So as if they trust you, so as they want to buy from you, so as the customer prefers you over other options. That doesn't happen just at customer service. If your experience and your plan for that is not holistic, then you're missing opportunities.
hmm Yeah, I've experienced something. It was opening a bank account.
Mm.
So it was filled with friction. Like it was anything but. It was filled
that
with friction. I have to call them. So calling, talking to them online over chat, and going to the branch, the three are not connected at all. Like they don't
yeah.
even see the same person. So
Was that in Japan
that was in
or
London.
London? Okay, okay.
Yeah. I think Japan, from my experience, the things will be smoother, but I do feel like they will tell you no in a very respectful way if that's not how the company's flow goes. They can't do a whole lot to help a customer. Like, oh, I was not able to fill this form online because my name doesn't fit the form.
Yep.
And I don't know, like, may or may not be able to solve that problem for them.
No, exactly. No, I think customer service and customer support and interactions in person in Japan are probably best in the world.
Mm,
I do think that if you look at digital experiences, sometimes Japan has historically favored functionality
mm,
over sort of the overall user experience and how do I make
yeah.
this a little bit smoother or easier or frictionless.
Hmm.
And I think that's still an opportunity. One of the things I'm personally very, very bullish on is I just think Japan has so many opportunities. I know a lot of people forget about Japan because it's an aging population or
Mm,
it's not growing in a certain way. But I just think Japan is full of opportunities to capitalize on. It has such a strong foundation as it applies to functionality, technology, as a brand that as Japan, I think takes a better leadership position in the world around things like customer experience, around business offering as a whole. I just think there's so much opportunity that Japan has to
hmm
offer.
Yeah, I think they already have the right mentality. So it's really just
Mm.
whether it be education or equipping them with the right technology or know-how.
Yeah.
Like I would guess it's not easy starting a business. What was the most difficult thing you have to do starting Relative?
Boy, I think it plays to your strengths, right? So I'm a marketing guy, and so solving client problems, I'm not going to say is easy. I don't want to take it for granted, but it's natural for me to do that. The hardest part is when you play to your weaknesses, like spreadsheets.
Okay.
We have to we have to reconcile what we spent.
Uh-huh.
All the bookkeeping and admin
Hmm.
things are not necessarily my strength, and there's so much of it. Like, this government wants these forms and that forms and all of that sort of administrative work that comes along with it. That was something that, at a certain level, I think I've had to get better at, and I think I've gotten a lot better at it. I'm probably still not. It still doesn't come natural to me. So managing sort of the call it the bureaucratic or administrative side of some of the work, particularly as it applies to interactions with government entities, et cetera, et cetera. That's probably been the hardest.
Hmm.
But doing the work to me, like one of the things we try to do as a company, right or wrong, some people might think it's wrong. We really do try to focus our effort and our investment into the business problem solving side of what we
Hmm.
do versus we build up a huge back office that does a lot of paperwork and things like
Yeah.
that. Because I think that I want to focus on being an organization that creates value versus manages stuff,
Mm-hmm.
so we try to minimize through our systems and processes what we have to manage versus what we can actually create for
Mm-hmm.
others.
Yeah, like you can outsource that or find someone who's better than
Yeah,
you at something. Then.
no, we definitely, we have a operations team that helps support us now that we've
Mm-hmm.
grown. Like when we first started, it was only 5 of us, so we didn't have that
Mm-hmm.
luxury. But now we're about 35 people or so. So we have an operations team that helps support us, and we have some outside vendors. But even still, as we designed the organization, we designed it to not require an enormous amount of bureaucracy. So we don't want to put in processes that require great new papers to be managed versus new value to be
Mm-hmm.
created.
That's good. You're living what you preach. You want a good experience for your people.
Yeah, trying.
So, have you noticed any shifts in the market? We start with Japan, but maybe in the
Yeah,
world, the shifts of how people's appetite or desire for good experience. Any patterns that you notice?
from a consumer perspective, you mean
Yeah.
in terms of what they're looking
Hmm.
for? I think I don't know. I think like it's very interesting because Japan is the experience drivers or motivators of consumers in Japan is probably different than it is in the West. I don't think Japanese consumers are as driven by experience outside of the interpersonal face-to-face experience. When I'm online, if I'm interacting, the experience part is probably less important than the information,
Mm.
probably because people have been biased towards, again,
Hmm.
functionality,
Hmm.
information consumption, and management. I do think there is somewhat of a shift in that, where there's increasingly interest in how do we make a better experience, and how do we um, make things a little bit uh, have a little bit less friction
Hmm.
going forward. And I think that's starting to come into play, but I don't think it's a huge factor yet.
Hmm.
I do think that everyone is aware that the world is changing rapidly as it applies to technology,
Yeah.
whether that's AI or anything
Hmm.
else. And I think that all users, and I think this is probably true globally as well as um, in Japan, are looking to see how do we adopt those technologies in a way that makes my life
Hmm.
easier. And I don't know that people have solved that, aside from using, let's say, Chat GPT to replace Google, in
Yeah.
terms of searching for
Yeah.
things, which I think is okay, but that's not really that revolutionary. It's a nicer search engine, which isn't the point, I think, of artificial intelligence. But I think people are searching and trying to figure out ways, how would these tools start to change my life going
Hmm.
forward?
Yeah. If you're just using AI to search, it's like definitely underutilizing it. But we're still
Yeah,
in like baby infant stage of AI adoption. The other day, I saw
absolutely.
this Japanese commercial. I think it's like system implementation
Okay.
type company, and it was like AI all over in a TV
Yeah.
commercial. Think about how much they
Yeah.
have to spend on that.
No, absolutely. But I think AI is interesting because it's a big selling proposition, and I think the key part again is going back to your original question: is how does that going to affect the end user more and make their life better? And I think that's still it's still a bit unclear. And I think a lot of companies, even how they position their tools, whether their tools leverage AI or they don't,
Hmm.
I don't think the articulation is so much how we're making your life easier as much as, ooh, look at what the cool technology can
Yeah,
do.
yeah, yeah,
And that's, but we're figuring that out. Like you said, it's early
yeah,
stages.
yeah. Like it may be an easier touch point for a broken process, maybe. You
Yeah.
still have to jump through
Yeah.
hoops.
Or like, to me, at the end of the day, all technology. Sorry, this is a bit of a random rant. Please forgive
That's
me.
fine.
The most important thing in life, the most valuable thing in life is time, right? Because time is it's the most finite commodity that we never get back. So I think value, in my mind, is ultimately measured in saved time,
Hmm.
or time that I could spend doing something else, right? So if I can drive a car instead of a horse and buggy, I can get places quicker. I can save
Yeah.
time. There's value in the
Hmm.
car, right? Like that's the value in it, is what it saves you in time. And I think as we bring these new technologies to the fore, the question is ultimately for the end user is, how are you freeing me up? How are you freeing my time up so I can do more things and I can be more empowered?
Hmm.
And I think that's ultimately where we need to get to with any technology.
Hmm. Now, switching gears a little bit, I want to hear about your
Mm.
experience being the customer in Japan versus having to treat customers? Because I feel like the two are very different.
Tell me, can you give me a little bit more about that, like in terms of what
So,
you're looking for?
like when you are being served, how
Yeah.
does that make you feel in Japan?
Well, Japan has the best customer service in the world, generally
Mm-hmm.
speaking, except for when you go to the bank, which is why when you were telling that London bank
Yeah,
story, I was like, is that sounds like a
that
Japan
could have
bank? Because
happened. I think I can
yeah,
imagine.
J- Japan banks, for all the technology that we have now, are super analog, and it's can be more of a process than I expected,
Mm-hmm.
and then I think a lot of people would expect. But in general, being a customer in Japan is, I think it's the pinnacle of sort of respect. I think there's a phrase, and I don't remember exactly how to say it in Japanese, but it essentially translates as the customer's
Yeah,
God, not the
yeah,
customer's king, not the customer's always right, no,
yeah.
the customer's
I've heard
God.
that. Yeah.
Um, and I think that that's how you're actually treated and supported. And I think people go out of their way, sometimes too much in a way that's maybe uh, we've gone past the point of helpfulness,
Yeah.
but it's always with that intention of treating people right.
Mm-hmm.
And I really think that, that's again one of the lessons that Japan can teach the world around, like, how to how to service people in a way that feels appreciated and respectful.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Speaking of that, I remember I was leaving a hotel. It was snowing. I think it was Hokkaido
Mm.
or the
Yep.
northeast. The people, the staff, they were like waving your bus or waving your car as they're saying goodbye to you, but it was freezing
Oh, okay.
outside. And they are
Sure.
in skirts and just stockings. So something
Sure.
like
Like,
that do make you feel like you're gone.
what one of the things that I find incredible, like, and I have this coming up in a couple of weeks, like, usually in Japan, you work for a company, you go for like an annual health check,
Hmm.
right? And I mean, compared to, like, I'm not trying to embarrass any other countries out there, but compared to the American health system, it's amazing. Like, they check everything in like one day. You're getting X-rays, you're getting EKGs,
Hmm.
you're getting barium tests, so they can look at your whole digestive tract. They do everything. It's an amazing, full body sort of check. But the thing that really amazed me about it the first time I went is they also had someone to guide you through every station.
Mm-hmm.
Like, oh, excuse me, now it's time for the blood work. And they'd walk you by and you get
Hmm.
your blood work.
Yeah.
Great. Are you done? Are you okay? Let's go check the eyesight now. Like,
Hmm.
you're like, what is this?
Hmm.
Like, you know what I
Yeah.
mean? Like, the
Yeah.
level of service. I'm like, am I at a spa? Am I at the
Hmm.
doctor's office? What's going
Hmm.
on here? I found it incredible. It was incredible.
Hmm. Now, what about being on the other side, having to serve your clients?
Well, look, I think the good news is I'm not Japanese,
Hmm.
right? So no one expects me to get that right at that level. Like, Japanese people have a realistic
Yeah.
expectation
Yeah.
of what foreigners
Hmm.
are trained for, if you will.
Hmm.
Um, but I think, for me at least, the thing that I always try to convince everybody is that I'm here to fight for them. Like, and you may not love exactly how I do it, or you may not love, how I say it, or you may not love, the way it presents. But you have to understand the core value that I'm going to every work assignment with that we're doing together is that I'm here to do whatever it's going to take to make sure that you come out as a winner. And I think what I try to do is I don't try to match the cultural energy of Japan, because I
Hmm.
can't.
Hmm.
I'm from the Bronx.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like,
It's
I
like a
can't do
while.
that. But I can't match that energy. But I try to make sure people understand what I'm fighting for in my own way.
Hmm.
And I think generally, like, I find people in Japan, they understand that, right? They understand that you won't behave a certain way, but if they understand your commitment, they understand your value,
Hmm.
then people will understand what you're about.
Hmm.
So that's what I try to do. That's why, as a principal, like, in my company, we have people from, you know, I don't say every culture, but
Hmm.
we've got a lot of people from a lot of different places
Hmm.
for a 35-person organization.
Hmm.
But the main thing we have to do when we work for clients is convince our clients, and not convince them in terms of selling them, but to convey that we are doing this for them
Hmm.
and it's all about them.
Hmm.
I think that's the critical part.
Hmm. Now, your clients are they like Japanese companies or foreign companies trying to break into the market of Japan?
Most of our clients are, I'd say, established international companies in Japan.
Okay.
So, like from an employee perspective, a lot of their team will be by nature
Mm-hmm.
Japanese, but the company itself may be a multinational
Mm-hmm.
corporation.
Because the reason I asked that is, well, maybe it's not so relevant anymore, but I'll ask it anyway. Because
No,
I
please,
wanted
please.
to see, like, for companies who want to target Japan as a market,
Yep.
what kind of things do they have to be mindful of?
I just, how do you say? The most important thing that I think that I try to condense this thought. I just think the most important thing is that people have to understand that Japan has its own values and its own energy,
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm,
and that when you come into Japan, you have to adapt to that.
mm-hmm,
Now, that's true of every market, I think, to some extent.
mm-hmm,
But I think one of the key differences is that, unlike, I don't know, and I don't want to single out a specific country and get it wrong, but I think a lot of countries, because of colonialism,
mm-hmm.
imperialism, uh, have taken cues from the West. And so that the model and the fit with the way the Western world
Yeah.
works and the way that they
Mm-hmm,
work sort of align better. Japan didn't go through that. So Japan's like, we've built it on our own.
mm-hmm,
You're going to have to fit with our system a little bit. And I think sometimes, so like if I'm a global, FMCG brand and I'm headquartered in London or New York, and I come up with this campaign will resonate in a lot of different markets. Well, it resonates here, it resonates in that market. Why doesn't it resonate in Japan? It's not because Japan is inherently difficult. It's just Japan, you have to adapt a little bit more to the Japanese environment than you do in other markets, even though they all have their own distinct culture, but they're just used to being a little bit more flexible to the Western way of
mm-hmm.
working.
Have you seen any like campaign gone wrong? Like,
Oh, there's probably a million. I see some
tell me
camp.
what's when you come to mind.
Like I always try not to be specific because I don't want anyone to get mad at me,
You
right?
don't name the brand.
No, but like so, but I tell you this though, I think this is really interesting. We a competitive agency of ours, we shared a client back when I was at my old agency
Hmm.
before I started Relative. Um, the client really wanted to do a Western style ad for their campaign. And, I think we, my old company, we're sort of splitting that difference, right? We were an international agency in Japan, so you have the ability to do Western style work, but you also try to do something locally. And I think that the client wasn't that happy with the concept we presented. So they moved over to work with a Japanese agency, one of the largest Japanese agencies in Japan. But the work that the agency did was so not, it wasn't suited for the Japan market.
Hmm.
It was like a Japanese imitation of a Western ad. So it didn't even look like a great Western ad.
Oh,
It just looked really out of
like it's
place.
neither
And you're
here or
like,
there.
yeah, like, what is this? Cause you know what I mean? It was very odd and confusing, but I think it's because they were trying to straddle sort of cultural lines and gaps,
Mm-hmm.
and I don't know. And I think that comes from sometimes like the clients like, well, we want to position ourselves this way, and so everyone's trying to make that
Hmm.
happen. And I think the reality is, you should always position yourself around what does your audience need.
Yeah, yeah.
Like, as a brand, this is what I
Hmm.
offer. This is what I stand for. Absolutely. But how do I get you, whether you're a Japanese woman or a housewife in Chicago or a banker in New York or a business person in Bangkok? It
Hmm.
doesn't matter. I have to then go, how do I get you to understand what I
Hmm.
offer? And I have to work around that context, not be a bit rigid. And I think where work goes wrong in that sort of cultural sense is when we become too rigid about how we're
Yeah,
trying to look
yeah, yeah.
versus how are we trying to connect with our
Hmm.
audience.
So, you having managed operations in your other agencies before, I'm sure
Mm-hmm.
numbers means a lot to you. So,
Sure.
how are there any indicators that you can see that the customer experience is improving besides the sales numbers?
Um, there's obviously a lot of people use NPS as an indicator of that,
Mm-hmm.
Net
Yeah,
Promoter Score,
yeah.
which is really designed to say, how much people advocate for you. I think that's a valid way to look at it. And I think brand satisfaction.
Mm-hmm.
One of the things that we personally look at is we look at something that we call connectivity.
Hmm.
And connectivity is literally designed to measure how connected a brand feels, how connected does a consumer
Mm-hmm.
feel with that particular brand, especially relative to the competition. What we found is sort of brand connection is a leading indicator of
Ah,
sales later,
uh-huh, uh-huh,
right?
yeah.
So sales is great, but sales is a lagging indicator. If
Mm-hmm.
you
Yeah.
understand whether or not you're connecting, whether you're resonating, and then if you're not, well, you can still pivot. If you wait, then yes, the sales will be lower and it'll be
Mm-hmm.
disappointed. So we use connectivity, which is a quantitative study as well, um, to be able to measure that and be able to help our clients sort of understand it and anticipate
Mm-hmm.
potential issues.
Mm-hmm. Is that something that relatives develop?
Yeah, it's something
Mm-hmm.
that it comes out of the whole relationship philosophy. Again, we really believe it. And the reason why we develop connectivity is, look, I can sit here and I can tell you relationships are important, or relationships drive business,
Mm-hmm.
relationships are not. If I can't prove it quantitatively, then who
Mm-hmm.
cares?
Yes.
You know what I mean?
Yes.
I got lots of philosophies I can share with you. But like at the end of the day, if we're gonna do business, together, I have to be able to say, well, the reason why we work this way is the results you get. So we've spent, boy, I don't know, probably about 4 to 5 years
Mm-hmm.
developing the actual tool, basically collecting data year over year and understanding trends and patterns against that
Mm-hmm.
to sort of formulate the way that we build and deploy connectivity.
Mm-hmm. Wow. I wanted to ask you, for companies who still think of sales, relationship with their customers in the more transactional
Mm.
unit, what would you suggest that they start doing besides talking to you?
Yeah, look, I think transactions matter,
Mm-hmm.
right? Transactions absolutely matter. We've got to make money, and
Mm-hmm.
we don't need to make money in 3 years. We need to make money
Yeah.
today. So I don't expect people to do anything different. Or rather, I don't expect people to change their focus from that.
Mm-hmm.
What I always try to tell people is, how are you engaging with your audience so that while you create a transaction today, you're also creating a preference for tomorrow.
Mm-hmm.
So one of the ways that we try to encourage our clients to think is through this lens of what we call sort of the connection journey. One of the things that I hate as a construct is the whole customer journey.
Yeah.
Customer journey is, like, to me, a fallacy that some marketing guy made up,
Mm-hmm.
because customers don't go on journeys. Brands want to go somewhere. Businesses want to connect. So as you're selling,
Mm-hmm.
how are you also building connections along the
Yeah.
way? That's what I would suggest people think about. Not stop selling,
Mm-hmm.
but make sure you're connecting along the way, so
Mm-hmm.
you're making selling easier, more efficient, faster, and more likely to repeat.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Like a repeat customer is worth so much, and the cost of
Yeah,
yeah, like the cost of the repeat sale is so much lower. Yeah.
absolutely. And I just think every dollar you spend, you how do you say it? If I pay $1,000 to get $1,500 worth of sales,
Mm-hmm.
well, that's great. I guess that's positive
Mm-hmm.
ROI. But if I always have to spend that $1,000 to get that $1,500 of sales,
Mm-hmm.
then I'm never going to be able to grow. Now, next time, if I can spend 800 and get 1,500, next time if I can spend 700 and get
Yeah.
1,500, then my business is on a different trajectory.
Mm-hmm.
You know?
Yeah. Yeah. So definitely forward looking is paving the way for a repeat customer base.
Yeah, absolutely,
All
absolutely.
right. So for this last part, want to play something fun. I'll ask
Sure.
you some quick rapid fire questions. So
Okay.
if you could ban one overused marketing buzzword besides customer journey, what
Oh, I
would
gave
it
it away.
be? What would you say?
Can I come back to that one? I'm stuck. I still got the
Okay.
customer journey in my
All
mind.
right.
Throw the next question at me. I'm
Okay.
sorry.
What was the most Japanese customer experience you have had?
There's so many. I think that, every time you go to a store in Japan, like the level of service that you get, the patience that you
Mm-hmm.
get, the care that you get if you buy something and they wrap it up. It's amazing every single time. And it's incredible the amount of care and dedication that people put into taking care of their customers in Japan.
Yeah. Yeah. I have a funny story I want to share.
Yeah, please,
So I
please.
remember buying like soft serve at a convenience
Okay.
store. So the staff asked me, "Do you want to like? Is it takeaway or are you eating it now?" So I said takeaway,
Hmm.
and then I was like,
Yep.
"What's gonna be the difference, right? Like, right?" So they put it in this paper stand, and they have like a
Okay.
wafer cone. They put the wafer cone on it and put it in a bag. So by the time I get home, this thing would still be intact. To
Mm.
me, that would always be the story that I tell if you ask me that. Yeah.
Yeah, I think it's amazing how people care about that,
Yeah.
you know?
So I wish more countries would do that.
Absolutely.
Okay. Next one. One non negotiable habit that you have picked up after moving to Japan.
After moving to Japan, I think just being politer a little bit. I think, I'm from New York, we're not
Mm,
very polite.
mm,
I think Japan people are always respectful.
mm,
And it's weird because now when I visit New York, you're like, excuse me, people get weird, like, excuse me, like you don't
mm,
say that around here. But I think it just sort of becomes part of your DNA, to just try to be a little bit extra polite and considerate of others.
mm. Great. One brand you think absolutely nails customer experience.
Hmm. I think there's a few brands, and I think I'll use Patagonia as an
Okay.
example. I think the reason why I think Patagonia is really good at what they do is because I think customer experience doesn't just start from the bells and whistles of service points or
Mm-hmm.
interface design. It comes from what you stand for, right? And
Mm-hmm.
Patagonia has a clear position on what they actually stand for. And then
Mm-hmm.
through their whole experience, that is consistent of what they stand for, whether you're
Mm-hmm.
returning clothing, whether you're buying clothing, that sense of care for the
Mm-hmm.
environment is so consistent. And I think every
Mm-hmm.
time I engage or someone engages with Patagonia, they're going to get that same consistent experience in a way that I think is fantastic.
Mm-hmm. Great. I am not a customer yet, but I will start paying more attention to them. Okay, next one. The worst experience you've had as a customer. It doesn't have to be in Japan.
uh, I'll tell you, so this is probably with my cell phone provider in the US, right? And so even in Japan, I maintain my US cell phone. And for some reason, I don't
Mm-hmm.
know why, for some reason, they stopped charging me my credit card. So I
Okay.
come to the US and I like go, what's my US phone number is not working. What's going on? And I go to the store and the guy in the store is like, oh, you got to call. I can't help you.
Mm-hmm.
What do you mean you can't help me?
Mm-hmm.
This is the store. This is the place. Like, oh, you got to call these
Mm-hmm.
guys.
Yeah.
And then I call them up and basically, I don't know what happened, but somehow there was an issue with charging my credit card and they didn't charge it. And then so they cut it
Mm-hmm.
off. I'm like, okay, cool. Well, can you turn it back on? I'll pay you the money
Mm-hmm.
right now. Like, yeah, well, we need the money first. I mean, yeah, but you'll turn it back on after I do it. Yeah, for sure, for sure, for
Mm-hmm.
sure. Finally, like it took like a couple of days for them to make sure for them to verify that they had the payment and things like that.
Mm-hmm.
And then I'm like, cool. They're like, great, thank you. And I'm like, yeah, well, what about my number? Like, oh, well, now you got to call somebody else. I'm like, what do you mean? I got to call
Okay.
someone else. Like, this is the whole reason I'm trying to get this worked out. At the end of the
Yeah.
day, they never gave me my number back.
Oh.
But the reason I don't even care about that, the reason there's a lack of transparency that says I went to them
Mm-hmm.
because I was like, hey, my phone's not working. I need this number. You
Yeah.
can lay out that, here's where we are. Here's what we're going to do. Here's what's going to happen.
Yeah. Yeah.
Instead,
Yeah.
it's like, well, what we want's the money, and we're not going to tell
Yeah.
you
Yeah.
about what you're going to get until after we
Yeah.
get that. And by the way, you're not going to get what you want.
I know.
I'm like,
That's unreal. Like I know mobile carriers are notorious
they're
with
horrible.
stuff like that.
They're
But yeah.
yeah,
Yeah, like did you not think like what am I trying to do? Like why do I want to give you money
yeah,
if I'm not gonna use this ever again?
exactly. And I think the whole thing
Oh.
is, and this is the part where customer service organizations sometimes fail, is that they are protecting the company. They're not looking out for the consumer. And I get it, right? There's a lot of people who might scam you. There's a lot of things that people worry about, especially, when you think about your company as a financial instrument. But
Mm-hmm.
at the same time, if you're designing your service organization to protect the company versus to take care and surprise and delight consumers, I think
Mm-hmm.
it's weird. And this is a company I was a customer of for 25 years.
Mm-hmm.
We
Yeah.
could have worked something out, I think.
Yeah. Yeah. So did you end up
I
getting
yeah,
a different
yeah, I went
career?
to a different carrier.
Yeah, good for you. Okay. So last question. Because your company's based in Tokyo, you live in Tokyo, I'm sure a lot of people are jealous. So what's your favorite place to go in Tokyo to clear your head?
Hmm. Tokyo's interesting because it's really dense sometimes, like so. And I
Mm,
and I live right in the heart of the city, but I do live
mm-hmm.
by the Imperial Palace. So I don't know.
Okay.
You've been to
Oh, that's
Tokyo,
nice.
so you
Yeah.
know the Imperial Palace. So
Yeah, that's serene.
yeah, it's super
Mm-hmm.
hot because there's no shade during the summer. But on a nice fall
Mm-hmm.
day, just taking a walk or a run around the Imperial Palace is very
Ah, yeah.
freeing because what you see for people who haven't been there, what you see is it's almost like Central Park in New York. Almost, it's much smaller than Central Park.
Mm-hmm,
But what
mm-hmm.
I mean by
Yeah.
that is that it's tree lined, but it's surrounded by sort of the industrial skyline or the business skyline
Mm-hmm.
of Tokyo.
Mm-hmm.
So as you walk
Mm-hmm.
around, particularly around if it's around sunset ish, it's a nice
Mm-hmm.
view and it's a nice sort of contrast between sort of
Yeah.
the hustle of the city and the tradition of the Imperial Palace, but with the
Mm-hmm.
modernity sort of surrounding it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I think that's the beauty of Japan.
Mm.
You see so many like historic Japanese looking architecture
Yeah.
next to like a modern high rise.
No,
Similar to London,
yeah, it's
actually. There's a lot of that too.
Japan is old that way. The only thing about Japan is that they have earthquakes. So we have a lot of like new buildings that aren't always distinctive in their architecture because
Yeah.
they're built to withstand an earthquake versus to delight
Yeah.
the eye.
Well, thank you very much for having this chat with me. Like I've been looking forward to it for weeks. Like I said, just passionate about like companies thinking about customer experience instead of just transactions and just make us less frustrated.
Yeah.
We don't need any more frustrations.
No, absolutely. And I really appreciate being on. I really enjoyed this conversation. And I think, obviously if there's anything, that I've shared, people have questions about later around experiences, something I'm also very passionate about as well. Like how
Mm-hmm.
do we, I believe that, life is complicated, but it's also simple. And like, if we make
Mm-hmm.
life a little bit less frustrating on a daily basis, even though that
Mm-hmm.
doesn't seem like you did a lot, that means a lot because
Yeah.
it impacts so many people.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. What's a good way to get in contact with you if anyone's interested?
Yeah, well, obviously, you could contact us through our website, which is relative.com. There's no E on relative, so relative without the E.com. Or
Okay.
you can find
Mm-hmm.
me on LinkedIn, Cairo Marsh. I'm pretty much the only one, so
Mm-hmm.
I'll be there.
All right. Thank you very much.
Absolutely, Karen. Thank you.
Thanks for listening to this episode of Mind Blend. If you enjoyed the conversation, don't forget to follow and share it with anyone who needs to hear it. And let's keep the conversation going. Connect with me on LinkedIn or leave me a comment. Until next time, stay curious, keep exploring, and let's continue to blend our minds and discover what's possible.